Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Emery's Memories channel. I'm your announcer, Gary Beatty. This channel was created to feature interviews by Ralph Emery. There are over 125 interviews by Ralph for you to enjoy on this channel. This channel has also become a collection point for rare and, in some cases, never-before-seen shows and interviews. What you're about to see is one of 14 classic interviews hosted by the LeGarde Twins from Sydney, Australia. It's part of a TV series they created, and it's called Down Home, Down Under. Now, these interviews have remained in their private collection, and they've never aired on radio or television until now. And here's their interview with the outlaw, Waylon Jennings.
Welcome back to LeGarde Twins Down Home, Down Under. Now here's my brother Tom to tell you about our very special guest.
His controversiality as a rebel and a Telecaster outlaw echoed around the world in the 70s, and the news media loved it. So did his fans. He became the topic of conversation. Like it or not, as the song sings, he did things his own way. You can't sense the truth and his music is what he is all about.
That's right, Tom. You know, he revolutionized and revitalized country music with his own unique style and brand of hard crossover music, which sold millions of records around the world. After 100 singles and over 65 albums, TV and movies, he's still performing with the same drive, enthusiasm, heart and soul, recording a brand new album for CBS Records. Yes, he's one of a kind, our special guest, Waylon Jennings. Welcome to the show, Waylon.
Thank you.
Good day, Waylon.
Thank you.
Nice to have you on the program.
Well, it's good to be here. Good to see y'all again.
Thank you.
It's been a long time, hasn't it?
It has. I was trying to think a while ago when we first met. Well, you guys came to town not long after I did.
That's right. I remember one time at the CMA convention, and the municipal auditorium was packed, and we walked out, and you were leaning against a post. And I walked over and I said, "What are you doing there?" And he said, "Oh," he says, you said it's a bit boring in there. And I don't think he wanted to play the politics. Hey, Waylon, we know that you're really excited about your new project for CBS Records. Could you share some of the highlights with us?
Yeah, we're just finishing it up. You know, we're finishing up an album, the first album for CBS. And what I did is the guys that I'm working with are Bob Montgomery and Richie Albright. And Richie Albright was my drummer for 20 years. And he produced a lot of things me and him did together on RCA when I was over there. That I've Always Been Crazy album and several others, you know, The Music Man. Anyway, it's good to be back working with him. I got him in there, especially to get the excitement back in, you know, and make sure we get. And then Bob Montgomery is an old Lubbock, Texas boy, you know.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, originally, you know, it was Buddy Bob and Larry, Buddy Holly and Larry Wilburn, and Bob Montgomery.
Are you writing most of the songs, Waylon, or
No,
are you collaborating?
I wrote some of them, you know, and but you've written a couple of them. Me and Troy Seals did, and me and Roger Murrah wrote one for it. But I'm really having a good time.
You're excited about it, right?
Yeah.
After 100 singles and 65 albums, what do you do to regenerate the same enthusiasm and drive and everything?
You find the songs. You know, it's country music more than any other music in the world. It's in the song, you know, because I don't care how good you sing. If you don't have that song, you still don't have it.
Didn't Shakespeare once write that he said the plays are the thing?
That's it.
Hey,
Yeah.
Waylon, how would you assess today, country music today, and where would you like to see it in the 21st century?
You know, the only thing, see, now I'm 50 years old, you know, and
You're just
You're still a young man, though.
oh yeah, well,
You know?
if I say anything negative, they'll say, well, he's old and bitter. But I'm not. You know, I mean, I'm still
You look terrific.
I'm a big fan of country music. The only thing that worries me is like with the videos, which I think are great. It's a great vehicle for a new artist, is the videos. And they're fun to watch. But, you know, we're born, you know, I think more than any other musicians, you know, and the entertainers, the country music singers are born. And it sounds corny, but, you know, they're born with a song in their heart.
And a style.
Yeah, the thing you do that worries me is, are they giving up the song for show business, you know? It seems, yeah, there's a lot of dancing going on when it don't even fit the music.
In other words, what you're saying, there should be more reflection in the lyrics and the total artistry of the performer?
I believe that, you know, I mean, it's great to have, you know, an act and do that, but the thing is, the song comes first in our music, and it should be regarded as first throughout our music.
Mm-hmm. Waylon, what has been the best and the worst of the 80s for Waylon Jennings?
The hard part might be finding the best. No, I think the 80s, you know, I mean, we go back to the song. I don't think there was a song in very many people's heart in the 80s. The 80s were a little bit scattered for me, and I had a lot of health problems. I did a lot of adjusting my life and everything. It was good for me, you know. There's a lot of it was good for me, but I'm kind of glad they're over.
Hey, Waylon, do you have a secret recipe for your and Jesse's longevity in your marriage?
Yeah, my secret recipe is Jessie. Because, you know, she kept it together when it was, you know, it was falling bad, you know. I mean,
You mean
Jessie's
you
an
were really
amazing
bad?
lady.
You were really bad?
Waylon, did you
I was
think...
pretty wild, you know. I mean, you know, I never was bad, Jesse. You know, as most people know, I had a drug problem, but I never was mean. But I just never was there, you know. And therein may be the secret to how we kept our marriage together. Because if I'd have ever come home, she might have run me off.
What advice, Waylon, would you give to some of the young and upcoming singers regarding that?
Regarding marriage?
And no, regarding, you know, the drug problem and
Just you don't need that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is you need just to depend on your own strength. You know, a lot of times, you know, you can blame a lot of people for things, but I don't blame anybody for my drug problems except myself, because I was just too dumb to know any different.
when you were laying in hospital there, I know you had, you know, open heart surgery. When you were laying there, and there had to have been times when you were by yourself thinking. What were your thoughts, Waylon?
You know what? The main thing, they said I was a good patient and that I didn't complain, but I had no right to complain, because everything that was wrong with me, I caused, you know, and that was the thing, you know. If I had taken care of myself, we're brought into this world, and we're born into this world, we have everything right to eat, and we have, you know, and here we go. What we do is, I got to looking at these doctors, and I got to thinking, here we come into the world, and everything is right. If we'd eat the right foods, if we would rest when we're supposed to, we'd be healthy people. But what do? Well, we eat the wrong foods, and we prepare it wrong, and we smoke, and we do things like that. And then we send people to colleges all over the country and let them become doctors to help us get by with it. But we don't get by with it.
Now, you know, there are no superhuman beings, right, Waylon?
Right.
Do you think sometimes that we entertainers think that we're kind of indestructible? Do you think?
I think all people are. You know what?
You know,
When you're young,
Marty Robbins was, you know, after his open heart surgery, we were having breakfast with him one morning in Billings, Montana, and he was having bacon and eggs. And I said to him, Marty, I said, you know, the doctor said to keep away from those eggs and bacon. And I think a lot has to do with your diet. Do you watch your diet now?
I watch my diet very much. You know, I'll tell you one thing, too, is like if people would start young doing exercise, just doing 20 minutes every other day, they could get by with a lot more. Because, you know, I got to thinking, well, my grandfather and my grandmother, every day of their life, they had eggs every morning and sausage and all this stuff. But they worked hard every day.
Out in the fields?
Out in the fields. And they worked at a lot of that, you know, didn't just sit there. You know, me and Johnny Cash laugh about our big exercise before our heart surgery and everything was from the couch to the bed and back to the table, you know.
Well, do you think that television has affected the lifestyles of today's society, and that could be responsible for some of the problems we have?
Well, no, you know, we're responsible, because, you know, we know better than to do the things we do, you know. You know what? Every time, you know, like when I was sitting around and I was smoking all the time, you know, and I mean, I smoked 6 and 7 packs of cigarettes a day sometimes. Because I smoked all the time. But I knew I was doing wrong. You know, you instinctively know.
Why did you keep doing it, though?
You know what? I didn't think I could ever quit. I didn't think I could quit.
It was like a habit, right?
It was a very big habit. In fact, I think cigarettes may be the worst habit there is because it's the hardest to break.
Waylon, we're going to take a break right now. We're talking with Waylon Jennings. Don't go away. We'll be right back. Welcome back to LeGarde Twins Down Home, Down Under. We're talking with our special guest, Waylon Jennings.
Hey, Waylon, we believe that you're a great fan of Margaret Thatcher, the Prime Minister of England. Could you accept a lady president?
Oh, I think it'd be great to have a lady president. You know, especially in America. Let me tell you. Let me tell you. Since you brought it up, let me tell you what I think. You know what? It would. I've known some of the presidents of the United States, and they're just men. You know, and I think a woman president would be great for one of the big reasons that she would be great would be because of what she don't have, and that is a male ego. Because, you know, you stop and think. You think about a man getting up in the morning. He's the president of the United States. He's got to meet with Congress, or, you know, and he's fixing to have to give ground. And he's fixing to lose a battle, and he knows it. Now, the first thing he thinks is, well, what is my family going to think? Or what are my children going to think of me if I lose this? Or what are women going to think of me? What are men going to think of me? What is America going to think of me? Now, if you have the same situation with a woman, she wakes up in the morning, she's president of the United States, and she's fixing to lose a battle, you know. She go in the bathroom and she puts that makeup on and she really don't care what anybody thinks, you know.
So she's won the battle, right?
Exactly.
So you wouldn't mind having a woman as a boss?
No.
Is Jessie bossy?
You know what? Jesse's much smarter than I am, and I know that, you know. But the good part is she don't. You know? No, you know what? All the people around me, you know, that run my offices, I have Mary Lou Hyatt and Beth. You know, I mean, like, and that's the best situation. If you look in these big buildings all around, there are a lot more women in there working than there are men.
That's right.
And you know what? They come in just like I do. I go into the office and I say, Mary Lou, what's going on? Because I don't have the faintest idea.
One thing about you, Waylon, they said, never ask Waylon Jennings a question unless you want the truth. And that's great because on the opening remarks we mentioned that truth and your music is what you're all about.
Heroes have always been, cowboys have always been, you know, something that you followed all your life.
Yeah.
And would you like to see your son Shooter following in his daddy's footsteps?
You know, I'm like any other dad, you know. It would give me a lot of pride. But when I sit right down and think about it, I think there's more to him than that, you know.
How old is he now?
He's 10 years old, and we go back to the smart and not smart, you know. And Shooter is very smart. He's much smarter than I ever was, you know. He learns much quicker. In fact, I just went back and got my high school education through GED, and Shooter helped me learn fractions.
How long did it take you to do that, Waylon?
Well, it just took some studying for a while, you know. It took me 7 hours to take the test, but I got it. And I got my high school diploma now.
Weren't you proud about that?
Yes, and he's proud too, and he helped me do it, you know.
But Waylon, don't you think that kids are our business and that education is the key to success?
That's you know, the thing is I've been watching, you know, like television. I've seen on the news where they took this survey and that we're way behind as far as the world, you know, as far as education, you know. I think we're missing it a lot. You know what? There's two people in the world who are inspired. They have to be inspired and they have to really love what they're doing to do it. And that's nurses and school teachers, you know. And we don't pay either one of them enough to really
It doesn't make sense,
pull
does it?
people into it. We should know it doesn't at all. Because you know what? That's all we have to give the world is our children.
Because you know that's where the groundwork is, you know, is laid at school.
Why
and they
is-
deserve Tom, they deserve more money, as you said, than they get.
Definitely do.
Now your priority, I know, is first your wife and your children. Now is this something that you learned, a principle that you learned from your mom and dad growing up in Texas?
Oh yeah, that's you know, in fact, I've always said this as a joke, but a lot of it's true. You see, my dad, he taught us, you know, we were 4 boys, no girls, you know, just 4 boys.
Where do you come in the family, Waylon?
I'm the oldest, you know, best looking, but the oldest.
The only one in show business?
Yeah. No, I have another brother that's in the show business,
You
Tommy.
can't-
Yeah.
Oh, Tommy, that's
Yeah,
right.
He's very ugly, but you know, he's
My name is Tommy too, so
there you go. You know how it is to live with a brother
I
named
know.
Tommy, right?
Yes,
I told,
absolutely.
you know, somebody, I told him, I said, you know what, Tommy, I said, they asked, you know, like, I asked him one time, you know, what's it like to be married, or to be the brother of Waylon Jennings? And he says, well, I'll tell you. He says, my dad, and I'll tell you, I was almost Waylon myself. It says, my dad called us in when we was about 4 years old and says, okay, which one wants to be Waylon and which one wants to be Tommy? And says, Waylon raised his hand first. So that was it.
Do you get along well?
Oh, we get along great, yeah. We
Well,
used to fight
brothers-
like cats and dogs.
Like
you know?
us?
Yeah.
Yeah, but brothers should get along. You know, if brothers can't get along, there's no hope for the world, right?
Right.
Were you a tough kid to discipline when you were growing up? Did your dad have to whip you?
My dad would whip us through covers this thick, you know. I don't remember ever getting a spanking that I ever heard from my dad. Now, my mama and that cotton stalk and that tree limb, you know, go cut your own tree limb and then bring it back. And let her whip you with what you got. And if you brought one this little, she'd set you back and get a whole limb.
Hey,
you know?
I just happened to think of something that I read about, and I just can't remember where I read it, but you were back stage at the Grand Ole Opry one time with Loretta Lynn, and you overheard a couple of young fellas talking.
Young artists.
Young artists talking, and they had finished one show, and one fella said to the other one, he said, hey, listen, if they want me to do another show, they're going to have to pay me double. And you looked at Loretta Lynn, and she looked at you. That's the way the story went. And you just shook your head. In other words, man, they came out of college or whatever and straight into a $3,000 bus. But Waylon Jennings and
$300,000 bus, yeah.
a $300,000 bus. But you had to really beat the bushes when you started, didn't you?
Yeah, you know what? Some of them are just natural talent, so they're really great. But they just, I think a big part of our business, you know, a big part of our music, as it is in the blues music, you know, is you really need to pay dues to understand what it's all about. Mm-hmm. But they're doing all right without it, so I don't know, you know.
Yeah,
but
how long will they be around, though?
Yeah, where are they going to be when they run out, you know? Every step that you take going up, you usually have to take coming back down, you know.
What are some of the contributing factors then in say, building a career of longevity like yourself? Did you envisage seeing Waylon Jennings where you are today when you first started?
You know, I never had a goal. You know, I always just wanted to be able to sing and make a living. But, you know, as far as people have asked me, said, well, when you made it, what did you feel like? And you know what's funny? Is there was never a time where it went, you're there, you know. It just never happens that way. But I'll tell you what it is. It's like hard work. And my advice to someone who's trying to get started in any business, really, but any music business, you come to town, to Nashville, and that's the worst thing to do because, see, you can't make them look at you. You know, you can't do that, you know, because it just don't work that way. What you do is go somewhere, sit down, go to work, and start doing your music. Doing your music and build you a following until make enough noise in that place, like I did in Phoenix years ago. Mm-hmm. I made so much racket there and everything, and people, we were doing good till they noticed me.
What was the name of the club?
JD's.
JD's?
Yeah, River Bottom.
And wasn't it Don Bowman?
Yeah, he was my buddy. Me and him used to, best way, the quick, shortcut way to a musical career is songwriting. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, when you start writing songs, the first thing you know, they're going to want you to sing them too.
So Don Bowman came back to Nashville and said, hey, there's a guy out there by the name of Waylon Jennings, and then Marty Robbins came out there. He came back bragging about you. And that's all how it all happened, wasn't it?
That's it. They make them notice you, you know, because I've been running across the country playing these clubs here and a club here, and nobody knew I was anywhere.
This is beautiful, Ted, because if the story is right, and correct me if it is wrong or right, but you came to Nashville with your group, arrived here, and Chet Atkins were telling the story, and this 6'2", you're about 6'2", aren't you? Yeah. 6'2", handsome guy, hair slicked back, walked in and was just leaning against the door, and Chet Atkins turned around and said, holy moly, who's that? And they said, Waylon Jennings. And then didn't you expect them to record you with your band when you first came here?
Yeah, well, we did part of them. Yeah, we used part of them.
But they
Funny
told
thing
you...
is, Chet signed me and didn't know what I looked like.
Oh, is that right?
I was the only artist he ever signed without knowing what they looked like, you know.
But they wanted to use the studio musicians?
Yeah, there was they used, and so I went ahead and asked them, I don't know exactly who, I used the harmonica player and I think the drummer on my first album. And they weren't really happy about that because in those days, there was kind of a click, you know. And so finally, you know, they kept moving it around, and then Chet quit producing very many people, and they kept wanting me to use the studio musicians, which are great, you know. But then I finally just stomped my foot down and said, no, it's not going to happen that way.
We've been talking with our very special guest, Waylon Jennings. Don't go away. We'll be right back with more Down Home, Down Under. Welcome back to LeGarde Twins Down Home, Down Under. We're talking with our very special guest, Waylon Jennings.
Hey, Waylon, how did you get tagged with the label Rebel, Telecaster, Outlaw? But let's start with the Rebel first.
Well, you should have started with some of them they called me before that, you know. I've been called a little bit of everything. You know, when I came here, I didn't quite fit in any mold, just like I still don't, you know. And so...
Well, you were so unique.
Yeah,
you were different,
they felt
you know?
like, they felt like that they had to put some kind of label on you. And I've really always not liked labels, you know. I thought, well, why not just, you know, I think when you finally make it, it's when people start referring to your music as the Waylon Jennings music or the Willie Nelson music or the sound, you know. And that's what I always strive for, you know, but not for a particular type of music. And then when I thought I had it all made, they come along with this outlaw Mickey Mouse, you know. And I thought that was about the dumbest thing I'd ever heard, you know. Outlaw music, what is outlaw music, you know? But I argued with them. I said, I don't want that. They wanted to call that album The Outlaws, and I said, so, but looking back on it and thinking about it since then, if I had it to do over, I'd probably argue till I got that close to changing their minds, and then I'd stop, because you know what, it worked pretty good.
That's right. It was the first, I think it was the first country album ever to go platinum, wasn't it?
Yes, it was, yeah.
And what a good merchandising tool it was, too. I mean, the merchandising. I mean,
How did you get with Tom, Paul, Glazier, and Willie?
Let me tell you about that. You want me to tell you about that, man? You know where they were? Somewhere. Willie was probably drunk in Austin. Tom Paul was drunk here, and I was in the studio. That music, those songs, some of them were 10 years old.
God.
Those tapes. And I went in there and redid it myself and engineered it and everything. You know, I mean, worked at it. And sang harmony with them and what you call sweetened them up, you know. Put more guitars on them and tried to make them where they were, you know, up to date.
Commercial?
Yeah. Me and Jesse worked in there for late hours. I'd go in there about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning where nobody knew what I was doing, you know.
Did Willie and Tom Paul ever send you a thank you note and say, thank you, Waylon?
They told me they'd kill me if I ever told anybody.
But hey, Waylon, you did it because you loved it, didn't you?
Oh, yeah, it's great. You know, it was fun to do that because those were old tapes of Willie's. Now, Tom Paul's was modern stuff. It was new stuff that he had done. And the idea for the album, the idea was Jerry Bradley's, and he came up with the album cover. But I was the one who put that thing together and produced all that stuff and redid it, you know, because Jesse had been on RCA and Willie had been on RCA. And now I'll tell it because it won't hurt anything anyway, but I made Willie come in and re-sing some of that stuff which was against the law.
But you said, hey, hey, mate, get on in
So
here.
it was kind of an outlaw album, and, you know, and Jesse did the same thing, and she at that time was with Capitol.
So
there's nothing you can do about it now. It's too long. Statute of limitations.
Right. We had
a break.
We had a gentleman, Jim Halsey, on the program.
Oh, yeah.
And
Jim.
is he doing a good job for you?
Jim Halsey's wonderful. You know.
How long have you been with him now?
Well, I'll tell you, I was with him. Yeah, not counting tomorrow. No, I'll tell you what. I went to, you know, when he had the Halsey Agency, and the thing about it is, I've known Jim for years and years.
Very knowledgeable man in the business.
And you know, in this business, an agent, someone who works as an agent, they don't have a real great reputation, except Jim Halsey does. You know, and the thing about it, he did everything he did with class. So now he's my manager.
Beautiful.
Yeah, and so I'm really looking forward to a long, well, we're great friends to begin with, he and Manisa.
You know, they say two of the greatest things in life, Waylon, is friendship and remembrance. And they say a friend is a person that walks in when the whole world walks out, and friendship is so very important. Do you think that like, people around the world have a preconceived idea of what Waylon Jennings is really like?
Yeah, it's fun, too. They think, you know, like when I first met John Lennon, you know, one time, John, me and him were cutting up, and he was one of the funniest people I ever met, and we got to be good friends, you know. And I said to him, I said, you know what? Reading things about you, I didn't think you was anything like you are. And he says, me? He says, folks in England, you know, he said, think that you shoot people, you know. And I said, yeah, so that's it. You know, but I'm, you know, the image and everything that I had, you know, because I, you know, scouring all the time. I'll tell you one of the funniest things that ever happened. Because, you know, the outlaw and the mean guy thing. There was a picture on the cover of a magazine one time of me, and I had the meanest look on my face that you ever saw. And everybody said, boy, he looks mean. They didn't know there was a microphone right there in front of me, too, and I'm doing like that. Boy, I'm looking mean. What had just happened is I touched my nose to that microphone, and it almost knocked me down, and I'm backing up, and I'm mad, you know.
You got electrical shock?
That was it. You know, and that's why the bad look, and, you know, they just thought I was looking mean all the time.
But you have a lot of people out there that love you, Waylon. I know there are people across the country that in various states have the number plates, the Waylon number plates, which is great.
Waylon, you've never been to Australia, and we're hoping that you have plans to visit
We're
Australia.
trying to work it out now, you know, where we can come over there, and we're looking forward to it because it's summer. Our summer, your winter.
That's right.
That's right.
Would you come down there with your whole group, or would you come down there as a one-man show? That
I think the first thing we're going to do is the one-man show, and where it's a show that I do, and I talk about my life and my friends and tell stories on them, you know, and ain't a thing they can do about it, you know.
and sing songs?
I know. You know what? I sing songs. I sing all of the hit records and things, and but I do it with tracks, you know.
Oh, I see.
It's just like the records, you know. And the thing is, though, is like, you know, I tell stories about when me and Willie started out, and me and Johnny Cash, and, you know, I could probably own Willie Nelson right now, you know. You know, just pure blackmail, you know. And, you know, Johnny Cash's house, I could get that with no payment down.
Well, let me ask you something. Can you get Johnny, if you had that much influence with Johnny, can you get him on this show for us?
I bet I can. Yeah,
You can? You want to shake on it?
Oh, I'll do. I'll call him, tell him come do it. You know?
You will?
It's going to be a while. How long y'all going to be doing this?
Well, we'll be doing it for quite a while.
All right.
You know what they
if
say?
You can do it. 'Cause it's going to, you know what? We got him until the end of March.
Okay. Our mom used to say now, a promise keep, all night you sleep, and a promise break, all night you wake.
Did your mother drink a lot?
No, she didn't.
Oh, she didn't?
No,
Oh,
she was a
okay.
teetotaler. Our mom was old-fashioned. But so...
I know what you're trying to do, lock me in.
That's right. Well, we're talking about Willie and Chris Christopherson and Cash.
And yourself on
a brand new video. Now, in other words, people think that here's Waylon, Willie, and Chris Christopherson and Johnny Cash. They all get together and have one big party. But putting the video together, you do the individual parts separately, don't you?
Yeah, Chris and I were out there and did them together same day, you know. And I don't know when John did his. When did he do his? If that
Well, I know
thing's ready.
CBS are really excited about the video, the Highwaymen, and aren't you doing a tour altogether, Waylon?
Yeah, we're starting a tour March the 3rd, and we're going to be doing a tour. It's a lot of fun, you know, because most of the stuff we've done has been accidental anyway, you know. And for the first time, we're going to rehearse.
Wow, that's
which
great.
which might be the end of the world. But, you know, as far as rehearsals are concerned, I'm the worst, and second worst is Willie Nelson.
Will you take your band and just have the one band for everybody, or what?
What we do is take the band we recorded the album with, which is Reggie Young and a bunch of guys, wonderful. Both albums that we have done, you know. That's been our band, and we've all worked with them some. It's going to be fun that way, because if we took our own bands, you know, everybody would say, well, now I want to take part of mine. And after a while, it would sound like Mickey Mouse and his rubber band if we took one from one and one from another.
Now, what about the style billing? Who gets the top billing?
Who gets the top billing?
Yeah.
Probably June Carter and Jesse Coulter.
Well, Waylon,
you're the first one brought that up. If anybody brings that up, I'm going to punch him out.
But, hey, you know, Bing Crosby...
Who cares?
Bing Crosby would always take second billing, because he said if it failed, then the guy carrying the top place had to carry the weight, you know.
Waylon, you know, it's been
We're going to be out there all the time together, by the way. All of the highwaymen, all of, you know, Willie and John, me and Chris, We're going to do like an hour and a half or 2-hour show, and we never leave the stage.
That's fantastic.
Fabulous.
Waylon, we sincerely do appreciate you coming down to do the show, and wish you and Jesse a continued success and happiness, which you deserve. You're an asset to the business. You've contributed a lot to country music, and hopefully it won't be too long before the people in Australia will be able to get to see Waylon live in the Hyde.
We'll go down there and we'll talk about the people from America down under.
Beautiful.
Thank you, Waylon.
Thank you.
What a great classic one-on-one interview with Ted and Tom, the LeGarde Twins. I want to tell you about their book, The LeGarde Twins, Showbiz Hustlers. Let me take you back to the beginning. These twin boys walked 15 miles across the bushlands of Australia to a tent with a dirt floor and folding chairs. As the projector started up, the movie appeared in black and white on the screen, and there for the first time, they saw Hop Along Cassidy. They ran almost all the way home and told their mom, "We're going to become cowboy singers." Let me read the introduction to Showbiz Hustlers. Being raised in the bushlands of Australia in the 1930s and 40s was a rough and hard life. We didn't think about it back then because that's how life was. You have to live the hard life to understand it. But we also made a picture in our minds of the kind of life we wanted to lead, and it became a beacon that has guided us on our long journey in show business. We hope and pray that our book falls into the hands of our fellow strugglers and dreamers to give them unfailing encouragement to pursue their hopes and dreams. Above all else, we want to give God all the praise and glory for our long lives and for His mercy and grace in dealing with us throughout the years. So grab the reins and ride over 1 million miles with us from the bushlands of Australia across 7 continents through 23 countries and 45 of the 50 states in America. Let's ride. Ted and Tom LeGarde. They appeared in Vegas, movies, and TV shows. And for you Trekkies out there, get this. This book is packed with pictures and stories and is a must-read. We'll put a link below the video so you can get your copy of The LeGarde Twins, Showbiz Hustlers. The LeGarde Twins, Showbiz Hustlers makes a great gift. This book is about twin brothers from Australia who had a dream, and it came true. This is Gary Beatty, and as Ted and Tom LeGarde would say, "G'day, mate."